Hello and welcome back to the 8th episode of the castle, the 2nd episode of the cathedral, where we're tearing the cathedral down. One of the problems that I found when I finished this was the nave. The nave was too narrow. I remember the nave is where all of our worshippers are going to sit, and I found that I could only have 4 stairs worth of benches, and that's not enough. I felt like I needed a lot more for my cathedral, so I decided the cathedral had to be widened. And then when I looked at it, if I widened it, it looked too squat, so that meant that I had to lengthen it as well. So you see me moving out what is the north tower. That's the north tower. So you see that I'm moving the north tower out. You can see just how much I'm moving it, and it also allows me to make some changes, because looking at the cathedral, while it looked nice, it was lacking a few features that are pretty prominent amongst cathedrals. So this gave me the perfect opportunity to do that. You see me enlarging the rose window, kind of playing with it, seeing if I could get the look I wanted, before going in and extending the walls out, and bringing the walls out 2 blocks, because I felt if I moved it 2 blocks out, I would achieve what I was looking for. Notice also that I'm shortening the wall that goes on the aisle. Now remember that the nave is this main body of the church. It's where the worshippers congregate. And the term is from the Latin word for ship, because the idea was this would be symbolically a ship bearing the people of God through their storms of life or something like that. So there was also the high roof concept, and I didn't think my roof was high enough. Additionally, I didn't really want a Germanic style church. A Germanic church has aisles of the same height as the nave. I wanted more of a high Gothic church, where the aisles, which are the left and the right of the nave, were shorter than the nave itself. And you see me putting down my marble, and part of my problem was just figuring out, as I was tearing the cathedral apart, how I was going to move all of the bits and pieces out. Now you see that I spend a lot of time working on this one area, because my problem was the buttressing, and to make the buttress look right required a lot of playing around with it, just to make it look like it wasn't just kind of slapped on there. Minecraft doesn't allow you to have the gentle drop in or gentle slope that you see in a lot of these buttresses that buttress up the nave. And the big reason that I wanted to do this lower aisle and a higher nave was so I could have a clerestory, which is the area of windows that are on the upper area that let extra light into the nave, and so that the congregation can read their book. Today they could read their book. We'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. So you see, I finally settled on a design that took a straight section out. Now you wouldn't really see that buttress with that long straight top on there, but in Minecraft this was really the best I could do. You see me kind of moving everything up and laying in the pieces for the wall here. And all this netherrack roofing that was all over the place was really me testing and planning, trying to figure out what I wanted to do and how I wanted the church to look. Now I'm putting the internal bracing in, because we would have needed internal bracing to create the vault. And the vault is the high ceiling that would run through the nave. And it comes from the Italian volta, and it's for the archway that's formed. And there's many different styles of archways. We're kind of going with a barrel vault, mainly because that's really all you can do in Minecraft. Dome you can sort of get away with. Groin vaults and rib vaults and fan vaults, not really. We kind of toe the line towards a rib vault with what we build here. Part of the other thing that we had to do is we had to extend the size of the transept. when I lengthened the church out, the nave, so the nave was longer in its east-west direction, it also meant that I needed to increase the size of the transept in order to accommodate for that. And then I realized that because I'm widening the nave, I needed to widen the transept. It also gave me a perfect time to line up the top of the nave and the top of the transept, so I don't have any sort of weird structural change between them. You see me running around finishing the buttressing on the north side of our cathedral. And you see how I've created the internal vaulting comes kind of off of the bottom of the clerestory, and I do decide that I don't like that, and I do go back and fix that. We'll come to that in a little bit. But initially I thought that this sort of worked for me, and then I got to thinking about how I was going to put a roof on here and realized that doesn't really work. Now the other thing I had to do, because I was making all these changes to the transept and to the nave, is I also needed to extend the apse here on the eastern side of our cathedral. I need to make it bigger, so I started by just removing all of the half blocks just so I could try to create what I was looking for. It became a real trial and error, and you'll actually see I have to go back to this multiple times to actually get it to work out right. And part of it was because I hadn't done the south end of the cathedral. You see me building off of a wall that has to still move out 2 blocks. So I ended up building something, and I didn't realize until later what I had done wrong. The other challenge is building the clerestory in this end of the church. And I didn't necessarily have to, but I chose to. And it was very difficult to get it to look right. And it did lead me to the point where I realized I had something wrong on this part of the church. And it's right around here that I finally realized that I've got something looking kind of funny when I finally bring this together and realize it doesn't create the structure I'm looking for. And we're getting to the point now where I realize exactly what I've done wrong. And there I go, fixing what I did wrong, realizing I was a giant derp and hadn't bothered to bring out the south wall properly. And now we're going to work on that south wall. One of the important things for me was really to make sure that the entire structure was as uniform as possible. And we do make another mistake here, which we have to go back and fix, where we make both of our transepts are actually 1 block too narrow, and we do have to go back and fix that as well. I don't notice it as I'm building this rose window, but it is. If you look on the right, it's 2 blocks, on the left it's 3 blocks. And now we're laying out everything on the south wall here and removing the remains of our south tower. Now you'll notice that I've raised the roof, so to speak. Well, I have actually raised the roof. Now I raised the roof because I kind of alluded to it earlier. Making the ribbing coming off the wall underneath the clerestory didn't look right, and I couldn't think of a way to get a roof on properly. So I had to raise the roof up, and you see I just drew a straight line so I could maybe get things straightened out for a change, and do it once instead of multiple times. Now I'm going back with a slight green wood to try to give the illusion of a copper roof. And we're just laying that in and ribbing the barrel vault. And we rib the barrel vault at the points where the buttresses are, because the buttresses would then take the weight of the roof and transmit it onto the ground. And right through here, I don't realize it quite yet, but I'm starting to feel something is wrong. Unfortunately, I don't realize it until I've gone farther with this project, that my transept is one too narrow. And now I've got the clerestory on the apse end of the cathedral. And now we're just building up all of our windows so that we can have a nice open end to this cathedral. Now I do need to build the fletch, and I know that, but I'm building this as though I don't have a fletch, and then I come back and put the fletch in, and I find that a little bit easier because I don't have to worry about fitting the fletch around in any particular way. And here I am bringing out the transept a little bit, one block, then moving all the windows one block further to the east. We are going to have to seriously go through and redo our entire cathedral square, and I have decided the cathedral square is going to be in brick, but only the cathedral square is going to be in brick. The rest of the roads will all be in cobblestone to kind of accentuate that you've walked into Cathedral Square, as though the giant cathedral didn't tell you that. And here I'm laying in the beginning of the roof that transitions between the clerestory and the rest of the church, really. Now the tough part is this roof on the east end. It's very difficult because it's a half dome, but it has some restrictions because there are going to be internal buttressing for the vault, so it kind of restricts me from building a normal half dome construct. You see me here just laying this in just to get an idea of what all I need to do. And I because I had the space, I made my rose windows a little bit larger in all three sides that have a rose window. And I did that because, well, rose windows are nice. You see me here building up our towers. They were too short once I built up the nave, so I had to bring my towers up, and they looked so terribly monolithic. I decided to kind of create some structure to them. I'm still going to go back and add a little bit more, but we at least have the start of some structure. We do go up pretty high. I think it goes up to level 100. And I like the cutouts in the corner. They look really nice. And now you see me going back and cutting out the intersection of the nave and transept to figure out what size fletch I want to create there. Now originally I tried a 13 circle, but I decided it was just a little bit too big. That was going to be an enormous structure. So I came in one and I tried an 11. I decided it was still just a little bit too big, so we just stepped down to a 9, and I didn't like the 9 either. So we finally went with a 7. Logically, we just keep stepping down. So I went with a 7. It does feel a little bit small on the structure, but I'm not too worried about it. The challenge, of course, was building the roof around here. Now, normally you would see some ribbing connecting this into the structure so that you would get some load bearing coming off of the fletch down into the intersection of the transept and the nave. I can't do that because of the way Minecraft works, so I just have to accept that it's not going to be quite accurate, but this is Minecraft, so we have to accept some losses of perfection. Now we fly down in here as I lay in the pews for people to sit and listen to the service, and we're going to fly into the rose window. Rose windows were also called Catherine windows, and it's really a generic term to describe a circular window, usually found in Gothic architectural style churches. I do go back and build in the rose window. You see me just laying that piece in, but I didn't do it here because obviously I'm flying through it. I'm also laying in stained glass. Stained glass was very important in a medieval church. Remember that most of the people here were illiterate, and they couldn't read their Bible, and even if they could read, the Bible was in Latin and it was held by the priest, and they often didn't speak that language. So the stained glass windows in churches told the story of the Bible in picture, so the illiterate populace could still take part in the service. And you see now the rose window. It took a bit of time to figure out the rose window. DOS helped me figure out what we wanted to do there. And we're going to fly in, and we get our first look at just the size and scale of this construction. I did replace what turned out to be pink stained glass with red stained glass because the pink was just weird. And we still have to build the altar and the rest of the bits of the interior of this cathedral, but we're getting there. We have a very large cathedral here, a very nice structure. I have one more rose window to build, but obviously I have to fly through it, so well, I had to leave it unbuilt. And then as we pan around to look at the church, we still have to finish up our towers, we have to finish up our rose window, I have to put stained glass in the aisles, I have to put a spire up on the fletch. But we're getting there, and this cathedral feels much bigger and much nicer. I hope you enjoyed this episode of our Let's Build on the Cathedral. Next episode, hopefully we'll finish up at least the large part of the cathedral. Please comment down below anything that you think I missed or that I need to change. Till next time, it's been Daretubbers. Bye.